Hey everybody, this is the Sliders Review. I'm here today to talk to you about Superman and Lois Season 3. I have to say, I was really bored with this season. Like, this season is not like the other first two. See, I stated before, when I did my first review of the season 1, that when I first started watching this show, I thought the first episode was pretty good. By the third, I checked out because it started to feel like a very over dramatic CW type show, and I just not in for that. I came for like a Superman show. But then, 2 years had passed. I had HBO Max. I was bored. I'm looking for something to watch. I'm all like, you know what? I'm such a Superman fan. I'll give this show another chance. And to my surprise, I now understand the hype that so many people had with this show. It was really, really good. There were times where it was kind of quiet moments with the drama. But whenever it came to the Superman stuff, man, it was really cool. He was saving people throughout the show, and then at the end, he'll have like a huge fight with somebody or something like that. There was twists and turns and mystery. It really kept me on the edge of my seat to how I wanted to know. Well, I wanted to know just how that season was gonna end. And they made some changes here and there to the lore, and it's like, okay, whatever. And it just got me really hooked. And so, I watched the second season. That was all right. It wasn't as good as the first, but still was all right. It had some pretty cool moments here and there. And so when this season was coming out, I was like really happy. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to get to watch it in real time and everything. And then I started watching and I got really bored. And I mean, really, 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 really bored. There was no excitement. There was no intrigue. There was no mystery, really. It was just it felt like a standard CW Arrowverse show, which is weird because this is not an Arrowverse show. But it started to feel that way. It was overly dramatic. People constantly talk way too much. They did a bunch of cliche type stuff that I don't like in TV shows. There wasn't much action whatsoever. Superman barely put on his suit this season. And, it just made for a very lackluster season. And then to top it off and everything, the entirety of this season revolved around Lois and her cancer. And I'm not even joking. That was literally the emphasis of the entirety of the whole season. Her dealing with cancer. I'm just kind of like, you got to be kidding me. I've already said before, Lois wears the pants in this show, when it comes to that family. She's very stern with the boys. She's more stern than Clark is in other seasons. And I like that. I really love it when Elizabeth, really gives it to the boys and stuff. And she's a really good actress, but my God, did the whole thing have to be about her and cancer? And I hate saying that because it makes me sound like a jerk for not sympathizing with her having cancer. But, it's a fictional show. And, I sympathize with other characters on TV show who had cancer, but their cancer wasn't the entirety of the show, like Desperate Housewives Season 4. It did not revolve around Lynette 24/7 and stuff. And even the villain, who I thought was lackluster, tied into Lois cancer and stuff. And I'm just like, you gotta be freaking kidding me. And then on the top of all that crap, the Cushion family is still having their family drama. And I've said this ever since season 1. Take them off the show, give them their own spin-off show so they can have all the family drama stuff ever, because their family drama stuff is actually pretty cool. But I don't see why it has to be inserted in this show. Just give them their own show. I mean, just do that. But I would have preferred it if it was like an alien virus or something like that. as opposed to like, a real life human one. I get it, it's a drama show, but my God, they didn't have to go that deep into like, the drama of it all. Cause it really took up the entirety of the season. Like, they teased at the end of season two that Clark rebuilt the Fortress of Solitude and his family's gonna be going there. They only went to it like one time as a family in season three, and then a second time when Jordan was like training with holograms and stuff. Other than that, or that, and also scanning Lois to see if they can find a cure. Other than that, they didn't even show the Fortress of Solitude. They didn't even show the holographic version of Clark's mother that much. And I'm just kind of like, have they forgotten what show they're on? So I'm all like, okay, why is it so lackluster? Why is there barely any fights? Why is there barely any CGI? So it's like, okay, they must be saving their money for something, right? However, the villain this season, as cool as her power was, I doubt that's where all the money went until it got to the last episode at the last couple of minutes. And then it's like, oh, that's where all the money went to. Which I will get to a little bit later. And so there was like at least 4, maybe 5 villains this season. But in my opinion, they were all lackluster. And they were just inserted in there just to give the characters something to do. Some of these characters have been like, been around the show for a little too long and stuff. And it ain't just the Cushion family. And it's just kind of like, they need to sever their ties, which apparently now they have because they gutted the entire show and everything, which really makes you wonder what the 4th season is going to be like. And speaking of which, the actress who plays Sarah, she was on somebody's YouTube page and she said literally, because they didn't know if they were going to get renewed or not, like it was literally up in the air at the very last minute. And she literally said that everything is wrapped up at the end, so where even if the show ends, like, you will be satisfied and stuff. Then, however, a few weeks later, the show still hadn't been renewed yet, and the showrunners all like, oh, there's a huge cliffhanger, blah, blah, blah. I bet you anything they added that at the last minute, right? Right when they realized they got picked up and stuff. Because, like, the showrunners have to know in advance. Like, they have to know, you know what I'm saying? And I bet you anything, he inserted that just in case fans would be all like, well, we want this show to come back, blah, 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 and renew the show, blah, 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 and stuff like that, So I bet you anything, he added that at the last minute just to hopefully get renewed. Because the actress literally said there are no cliffhangers and stuff. So unless she was told to lie, then I believe they added that in, and yes, they ended on a freaking cliffhanger, and it makes you wonder how they're gonna resolve that next season. And but why did they introduce that villain? I'm tired of that villain appearing in live action, which, like I said before, I'll get into later. And so, yeah, this entirety of the season, there was no twist, there was no turns, there was no big stuff. Everything was predictable. And I mean everything. Except for that twist at the end. I was not expecting that. I was like, okay, where are they going with like Bizarro and everything, bringing him back? And so, yeah. So, let's just get into some character profiles, see what everybody's been up to. I might as well start with the person that the whole season revolved around, Lois herself. From the beginning of the show, she has cancer, and she's been like, taking it as normal as a person would. She's sad, she's upset, but she has to like keep a strong face for like her family. Her family is very upset, but she would not allow them to be upset. She wants to not have them dwell on it and stuff like that, But at the same time, she's internally dealing with it and struggling with it and feeling really sad about it. But she's keeping her chin up as long as she can, you know what I'm saying? And, the actress did like an extremely good job. She really sold it. I just wish it wasn't the entirety of the season. And so her whole thing, other than that, is that Bruno Mannheim is pissed at her because she's always snooping around in his business when he's trying to do bad stuff. She ends up befriending his wife, who turns out to be the supervillain of this season. And because of that, the wife is also going through cancer. So she sympathizes with her and don't want like Superman to like take her in or nothing like that. And it's like, dude, this villain has literally murdered people. She has literally tried to murder your husband, your best friend. Well, not really a best friend, but a really good friend. And I mean, she's a murderer. She needs to go to jail and stuff. And so, like, eventually the evil lady turns on her, and, it's kind of like, that's that. She's dealing with her surgery. Her and Clark are like, having to come to the realization her like boobs are like gone and stuff like that, and there's that episode with that red dress that was really emotional, and it was really touching seeing those two fly in the sky and just like kiss and stuff like that. They are a very loving couple. They're probably one of the best Lois and Clarks I've ever seen. Like, I still like the ones from Smallville, and those two was fun, but their versions was written completely different, They were younger, they were more snappier and stuff like that. They really didn't like get together, but they felt forced to be together, you know what I'm saying? But with these two, it feels natural. At first, I wasn't really feeling it when they was on the Supergirl show, because Tyler's 35 and the actress who plays Lois is much older than him. Not too much older, but at least by a couple of years, I think. Now, this always looked kind of weird to me. Like, Lois was like a cougar, you know what I'm saying? And I really didn't like her portrayal in like that crossover they had, the Crisis one. Because she kind of acted like the older Lois, who's like always running and trying to save the day, and when she's not supposed to. And I'm just like, get her off the show. But then when they made this show, they made it so much better, and they wrote her so much better. They really like wrote to her strengths, which is really dramatic stuff, And so I really came to like that actress. Superman, like I said, he's barely being Superman in this show. Basically, Clark is being by his wife's side. He cannot handle this. Superman is the strongest person on that planet, yet, he can't even save his wife and stuff because she is dying of cancer and stuff. And, those make for really good Superman, Clark Kent type stories, Here's this person with all this power, but he is hopeless and can't do nothing, He's constantly running in with Bruno and stuff like that. Bruno hates him and everything. Automata is like the main villain, and she's constantly giving it to Clark, and he can't stand up against her because those sonic waves is too much. And so, like, when her power starts to go nuclear and everything, he is the last person with her, had to fly her up into the sky and to where she can die and everything. I guess like suffocate or whatever. And it was like a really like sad scene. Like, even though he is a hero and she's a villain, he can still see the humanity in people, and and wanted her to go out kind of like with dignity and grace and stuff. Other than that, he's having to deal with his kids a lot more. Like, he's having to be like, the lowest this time, and really get on to the boys, especially Jordan. Jordan is, basically Superboy in this. And he's teaching his son like the ropes of like, what to do, and constantly telling him to stay back, but his son won't listen. It gets really crazy towards the end because his son's at the point where, I don't care, I just want to do what I want to do. I want to save people and stuff like that. And you can't tell me what to do type crap, to the point where Jordan really like shrugged off Clark in a very superpower kind of way, which really pissed Clark off and everything, which is something you rarely see. And it's rarely see Clark get like super mad, And then, they have to come to the realization that Lex Luthor is a coming and stuff. The new Jonathan is actually pretty cool. He actually looks like the Jordan actor, and he fits in perfectly. Like at first, I was gonna be kind of scared, 'cause, it's a different actor, but he was great. The only thing is, he doesn't have that edge as the other guy, and he doesn't have that, oh, you have powers and I don't kind of crap. You know what I'm saying? But other than that, he's cool. His story arc this season is kind of odd to where his ex-girlfriend with the drug dealer, she's back and she's living with like them. And I'm just like, take her out, and thank God they did. Then they needed something for him to do, and of course Kyle to do. So now he's like a firefighter, which when Jordan starts like, saving people, like, Cal is getting like bent out of shape and everything and thinks it's like, Jonathan. Now, what's bizarre and weird about this is that when he thinks there's something odd going on with Jonathan, he freaks out to the point of going to the Kent's house and demanding answers. But then when Clark reveals himself, then he's all like, oh man, I know Superman and stuff like that. So it's kind of like the writing don't make sense in that part. And so there's one thing that's been bugging me though. Where is Bizarro Jonathan at? He's still on that earth and he's still prisoner of the DOJ. But he's never been mentioned and he's never shown up this season. How in the world did the writers drop that ball? Did they literally forget or something like that? Like, I don't understand, because they did this whole like Bizarro Superman thing again, but they literally have a flesh and blood living version in the form of Superboy and stuff. Jordan is going through the motions and stuff. I really like his character development this season. He's becoming more of a Superboy, learning how to train, learning how to save people, having a costume to hide his identity, but his parents don't really want him doing it. His grandfather does and everybody else does, but he does, like his parents don't, so it causes conflict between those two. And I think it's written very well. And you see a lot of times when Clark tells him, I don't want you to help or stand back, Jordan really helps out. And Clark literally would have died a couple of times, and so would Lois if, like, he wasn't around. So I understand his argument of always wanting to help out, but Clark, being the parent, is worried that his son might die, and that's totally understandable and stuff. And he made a good point in the finale when Clark wanted him to fly his brother to some vacation spot. And he's all like, oh, so I can use my powers for something stupid like a vacation, but I can't save people? That literally made no sense. But of course, he gets a little too cocky with his powers, showing off, appearing in front of people with a mask on and goggles and stuff. And people are starting to get very suspicious and stuff, which is what Clark did not want to happen. John Henry Irons. And so, honestly, I feel bad for saying this because I like the actor and I like the character. His character and his daughter's character probably should have been written off at the end of season 2. Their story arc was complete, in my opinion. But they had to find a way to keep him around for the third and cram him in some way. So they did it with the Bruno Mannheim thing. Bruno killed that version of John on that planet. And so when this one starts popping up and interacting with his sister, this causes those two to have conflict. His main arc is just conflict with Bruno and stuff, to the point where, he literally exposes himself in the suit. And then the whole Natalie thing comes into play. However, when it comes to John, also to make him relevant this season, they did the cliche thing of putting him in a relationship with Lana, of all people, which is just bizarre. I hate when they make main characters love interests. However, this is actually from the comics and everything. Those two actually got together in the comics. I had no idea. I knew she was with Pete and everything, but I never knew she was with John Henry and stuff. And so I'm a little okay with this now that those two are in a relationship. As for his daughter, they're having some conflicts when it comes to who Natalie is dating. So when the season started, they paired off Sam and Natalie. And I'm thinking to myself, oh, they must can't find nothing for her to do until they give her a love interest. And then I'm like, oh no, they did that because they had nothing for Sam to do, which I'll get into him a little bit later. But basically, her and Sam are hanging out because she feels lonely on that earth and she doesn't have her real life grandfather. So he's all like, well, yo, since I'm your granddaddy on a parallel earth, I might as well, hang out with you and stuff. But of course, Sam is Sam and he's using her to his benefit and stuff, which really pisses her off and irritate her. And so then after that, those two don't interact no more. But then in the finale, Sam literally tells this lady he's dating, oh, this is my granddaughter. This is something that they have never said before. Lois has never called her her daughter, and the boys have never called her the sister, and he has never called her the granddaughter. Because they would literally have to explain that, and that's going to open up a can of worms. Which now I wonder how they're going to play that off in season 4, but the cast ain't coming back. Probably except for 1 or 2 episodes, so who knows. And so she's dating the bad guy's son, which everybody saw that coming. There ain't that many black people on the show. And so they do the whole cliche of her falling hard for him and disobeying her father. The boy's parents, both of them, literally tries to murder her dad, and she literally runs back to him, but I love him, all that crap. I hate that crap. And it's like she's really adamant about dating this dude, and I hate when the teenagers impose their dating will and tell their parents, you can't tell me what to do. I'm gonna date who I want to date and everything. And so that's literally all she does all freaking season. And it's a waste, man. It's a shame because I thought she was one of the better additions in season 2. She was clever, she was smart, she was brave, she interacted amazingly with the boys and everything. And she interacted really good with Sarah. So it's kind of like, it sucks that they dwindle her down to just being a lovesick girl and everything. And now, her and her dad are gonna move to Metropolis next season because they're gonna work with the DOJ and stuff. And so it makes you now wonder what's gonna happen in season 4 because she's technically gone and might be back for 2 or 3 episodes. And so is her father. Not to mention they barely put on the suits this season. I think she only put hers on 1 stinking time. And her father probably put it on a couple. Now her and her father, him and Superman had a little bit of a disagreement because throughout this entire season, Bruno has been literally trying to murder John and hired tons of people to where John decided, screw this, I'm just going to kill this dude and everything, which really puts him at odds with Superman. But there's no huge fallout from that. There's a brief discussion where those two are mad at each other, but after that, then it's never brought up again. And not only that, but the pacing is more off with these 2 characters than it ever was in the first 2. Because every once in a while they would disappear. But this season they disappear a lot. And I mean a lot. As for Sam, when I say they literally had nothing for him this season, I literally mean they had nothing for him this season. First, they paired him with Natalie. Then that quickly ended and he just disappeared. Then he started giving dating advice to Lana, of all people. Like, how does he know her really personally? You know what I'm saying? And then it turns out that Jordan had him on some type of dating app where he started dating a woman. And you see him really happy and excited. And it's kind of like, wow, this could be the one. But then you kind of think in the back of your head, something don't feel right for some bizarre reason. And then he introduced like himself to his grandkids and told her that Natalie is his granddaughter, which I'm thinking to myself, okay, this is something that's never been explained. Even Lois don't call her her daughter, and her and Lois doesn't have like any interaction. So then it's kind of like people are gonna wonder, yo, how did this happen? When did Lois cheat and everything, And so, or at least maybe they could say it's the other daughter's, like, kid and stuff. I forget Lois' sister. But then it's like, okay, that woman he was dating turned out to work for Lex Luthor. So now Lex is gonna know something's up with, like, the irons and stuff. But now it's like Sam is gone. We don't know what that woman and that man did with him. And they just took his transponder thing for Superman to find so they can give it to, like, the Doomsday thing. But then here's the craziest thing. Like, what happened to Sam? And also this contradicts now what the Sarah actress said, which makes me think they must have added this at the last minute or something. Okay, Bruno Mannheim and his wife and son. Basically, I think he's the head of Energain, I think it is. I can't really remember. But basically, he's just like, a gangster thug who got really rich and everything, and he takes care of like his environment. Like, I hate when they write these sympathetic characters, and I hate every time they write like these black like ghetto characters, like these ghetto thugs and everything, these gangsters. They always write them as, okay, they're bad and they'll kill somebody, but they're doing it for their like neighborhood, you know what I'm saying? Like, they're giving back to the neighborhood because nobody else will help them out. I hate that. Okay, he's no Robin Hood, all right? He's a gangster, plain and simple. He murders people and stuff. Stop trying to write him sympathetic. And then when it comes to the wife, they wrote her even more sympathetic too, because the reason why her and her husband been doing what they're doing, they're trying to find a cure, and they're going around killing all these people and experimenting on them and stuff like that, just to find a cure for her cancer. So then it's kind of like, oh, well, you kind of have to feel bad for her now, but then she goes around murdering folks and stuff like that. And, when they thought they had a cure, it just accelerated her powers to the point where she went nuclear, and Superman had to, like, take care of her and stuff. And then it turns out, because they had to bring Lex Luthor in somehow, they lied on him, and he spent 17 years in prison away from his wife and kid. But they was just generic, typical villains that didn't seem all that impressing and stuff. And that's the real sad thing about it, because both can act really well. And the Peter lady, man, she can really give those facial expressions when using her powers. And of course, the son is the typical, the good kid who don't know about his parents and then does find out and don't know how to feel, you know what I'm saying? But helps them like do bad stuff when they need his help, unbeknownst to him or unbeknownst to him. So, Kyle Cushing, him and Chrissy are pretty much paired this season because they needed something for both of them to do. See, I thought it was stupid beyond belief when they kept exposing Clark's secret to the main cast and recurring cast, because nothing came from that. Chrissy, who works at the Gazette thing, she pressured Lois to where Lois finally decided to tell Clark's secret, but nothing came from it. She didn't use it to her benefit. She didn't use it to help like solve cases. It was like she just knew, and she was still just like a regular character. So in order to give her something to do, they put her in like this relationship with Kyle. Kyle has nothing to do this season. The first season, he had a purpose on there. The second season, not really. But they could have wrote him off at the end of season 2, but they didn't. So basically, him and his wife, Lana, are still divorcing. He's trying to raise Sarah, but Sarah, like, likes him and not her mom. And then he's just banging Chrissy and stuff. And it's to the point where they have to hide their relationship. They literally made her like, the walk of shame type, like, lover and everything. Which is quite a shame because both these characters were written to be like, independent, strong people, and now they're just, but then they killed Kyle's character in season two with making him a cheater and everything. But then with Chrissy, my God, they really like, and I feel like solidified her character this season. She's literally having like, this to sneak around just so she can sleep with Kyle and everything. All while Lana is still knocking on the door and his kids coming over and this and that. And it's quite a shame how they butchered her character and stuff. She's no longer that strong, independent woman she used to be. And to make matters even more crazier, at the finale, she ends up pregnant. Those two only been banging for like a couple of months. And not only that, but he proposes to her and literally tells everybody he's in love with her. It's only been a couple of months and he's not even divorced yet. So Lana's upset about that and everything while she's still with John. And it's just kind of like, this is why you write characters off if you don't have nothing for them. And to top it all off, now he knows Superman's secret. When he's kind of like all like, man, I can't believe you're Superman, blah, 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 blah. And then so like he gives Jonathan special treatment only when Clark said like, look, man, just forget you know my secret and everything, which really upsets him because he's kind of like, man, you're making me feel like trash and everything. So where he starts treating Jonathan like a little crappy after that. And it's just like, it's clear they have nothing for his character and he needs to be written off, which technically now he is and everything because all the recurring characters are gone. It's clear, like with the whole Cushing family, they have nothing for Lana. She's the mayor, but she doesn't do any mayor type stuff. This is why you don't write main or recurring characters as like, mayors and stuff, because a mayor, if it's not like a political show, there's no point for a mayor being there. In Batman the animated series, how often was Mayor Hill there? In the Batman, how often was Mayor Grange there? They're barely there because they don't do nothing. They're just like political people. And so to give her something to do, they decided to hook her up with John. But then to give her something else to do, they gave her a huge story arc with Sarah. So I might as well talk about Sarah, 'cause I don't feel like talking about this twice. Sarah is the true villain of this season, in my opinion. See, this is what happened. In season one, the showrunner wanted to give Sarah superpowers. She said, no, that don't make no sense. This is why I hate the Arrowverse. They want to give every main and recurring character superpowers and put them on the team. Thankfully, she had the wherewithal to say no. However, in season two, she's kind of like, nah, I kind of want power. She's all like, hey, wouldn't it be cool if Bizarro Sarah was really on this earth? And they're like, no, let's just make you an out-of-control teenager. So that's basically what they do. They made her into an unbearable, out-of-control teen. She's partying, she's drinking more, she's being arrogant and rude to like everybody, especially her mom. She doesn't want to listen to authority, to where the point where her mom slaps her out of a reflex. I thought there was going to be this huge ramification type thing because her mom is a mayor, but no, she just runs to her dad and the dad's upset. And so they hash it out and that's about it. So basically throughout the entire season, she's just being a butthead and everything. Her and Jordan are completely broken up, which I'm glad because she cheated on him in the second season and wanted him to hang out with her like cheating lover and everything. And so she's just very annoying this season, very, very, very much. So her and her mom have to repair their relationship, but it's hard because she keeps screwing up to the point where she might not be able to get into a good college and she has to be a waitress now. And it's just like she's so unbearable this season. I like the actress a lot. It just sucks they wrote that for her. And so this dude she's hanging out with, he thinks that, there must be like a Superboy around town. And she doesn't like it when Jordan showboats with his powers and stuff. But and I do like the interaction between those two when those two like get like mad at each other because it's written very realistically and stuff. They wrote her like a real bratty teenager. As for her sister, girl was only in there for like one episode, just so she can like disappear, and they had to go looking for her behind because she's upset about mommy and daddy and crap. It's like, what was the point in giving them like a little kid? Because the girl's never in the show, and she definitely ain't gonna be there in season 4. And now we get to Lex Luthor. I don't know what to say about this character. I like the actor from The Walking Dead, but I just don't see him as Lex Luthor. This Lex doesn't act like Lex, he doesn't talk like Lex, he doesn't dress like Lex. This Lex has a head full of hair, which he voluntarily decides to shave off. I like Lex bald head better when either he's just getting old and losing his hair or it's due to like kryptonite or something like that. Him just completely shaving off his hair is just kind of weird because he leaves behind this Civil War type mutton chop type goatee, which just looks weird on him. He looks more like an old hillbilly man. Which, why they keep giving Lex facial hair in all these shows, I will never understand. It was in Supergirl, Titans, and now this one. They are trying too hard to make this dude look like a Billy Badass and everything. And it's just like everything this Lex does is very aggressive. I've never seen this version of Lex before. Kinda in All-Star Superman when he was more tough. But at least that one sounded intellectual. This one just sounds like a brute. He acts more like a thug gangster than that of Lex Luthor and stuff. And to top it all off, like I said before, they're trying too hard to make him tough. Basically, when he got put in prison, he's running the prison. He acts very much like Kingpin did in the Daredevil series when he was arrested. And it's just very odd and bizarre. Like, okay, there's a scene where he's sitting down eating food about to be released from prison and he's punching the stool he's sitting on. I'm like, no, that can't be a stool. Then they pan down. It's a person he's sitting on. Really? And so he gets whatever he wants in prison because he has people on the outside and they threaten those people's family members. So he's been kind of just surveying everything that's been going on, right? On top of that, they gave him a little girl as a daughter. And he has a picture of her when she's little, so she must be much older now. Which you know what they're going to do next season. The girl is going to end up dating one of the twin boys and stuff. But then, so they're making him sympathetic for that. But he's done with his wife. Now, this is what's so odd and bizarre. Okay, I had to go look online just to see the distance. He decided he's not going to get a ride from prison to where he has to go. He's going to walk. Okay, so he's at Stryker's Island, right? The prison. I looked online. That's 5 miles from Metropolis. Then, of course, he walks all the way from Metropolis all the way to Smallville. That's 105 miles. Is this supposed to make him look cool? Is this supposed to make him look tough? Seriously. And then when he gets out, he knows all about the bizarre Superman. And so the thing is, he's pissed because he's been there for nearly 2 decades, 17 years. And he's mad at Lois because she put him there. To the point where he goes to the Kent's house and he threatens Lois. And then he tells her Superman's next, but he doesn't look at Clark. He literally has no idea Clark's secret. And I'm glad they didn't write it like that. However, this is what's so weird when it comes to the age. Tyler Hoechlin is 35 years old. I don't know how old Michael is who played Lex, but he gotta be in his 40s, if not 50s, but mostly probably late 40s. So, if this Lex is in his 40s and this Superman's in his 30s, and Lex has been there for 20 years, they barely know each other. Yet, this Lex seems to know so much about Superman and his weaknesses and all this other crap. So, it doesn't make for that fun dynamic of those two knowing each other because Lex has literally been locked up. I know I'm not doing the math wrong. The people who wrote the show are. So let's get into our surprise villain at the end. So Bizarro's Superman has literally been a dead corpse this entire season. Bruno Mannheim has been experimenting on him. He has corrected his distorted face, healed that up, and basically he's been trying to use his DNA for a cure. Somehow this reactivates Bizarro Superman. But he's a zombie, he's eating rats and all this other stuff. Lex finds him and knows to use X kryptonite or yellow K, whatever you want to call it, gold kryptonite on Bizarro, and he starts shooting him. Think he's dead, but he's not. He's realizing that the gold kryptonite is making him stronger. So for an entire month, he's been killing Bizarro Superman over and over and over with kryptonite weapons, making him stronger. This causes him to mutate into Doomsday. So now they finally did that whole Doomsday thing because they've been wanting to do that since season 2 when people assumed the person who showed up in that costume was Doomsday because it was the costume from that of the comic books. And all I have to say about this is they need to stop doing a live action Doomsday. Every version looks like crap. Smallville looked like crap, but Smallville looked more realistic because it was a costume and it looked similar to in the comics, but it still looked like crap. Then there is the Batman v Superman one, and that looked like garbage. It looked like Gumby injected with CGI. Then there's this one who looks like Nemesis from the Resident Evil stuff. So they can never get the look just right. However, I will say this. This is the best live action Doomsday Superman fight I have ever seen. The one in Smallville was barely even there. A couple of punches, then jumping to where this explosive was with kryptonite, and that's about it. Then there was the Batman v Superman one where that Doomsday was like a giant and Superman could barely punch him. The fist was the size of his body and it was just weird and awkward. Then there's this one. They went everywhere. They fought on land, they fought in the air, they fought in the water, they fought in the subway system, they fought in up in the air and the clouds, and they fought in space, then they fought on the moon. So now I see where the money went this season and everything. However, the fight, a lot of times, it looked like a video game. Like, I kid you not, it looked like a CGI video game of them fighting. But it was still cool to watch. And then it leaves on the cliffhanger. They're on the moon, they're flying towards each other, getting ready to punch, and it cuts to black. They really gonna have to make that up in season 4 because their budget is slashed even more to where they had to get rid of all their characters that are recurring and stuff. So yeah, I just feel like this entire season was very lackluster. It was boring in my opinion, and it wasn't very good. I did not watch this show to watch a drama. I came to watch Superman type stuff, and I barely got that. And I really want to check out, but since the next season is probably going to be the last, I might as well finish this out, But it's going to be like 10 episodes. The recurring cast are probably going to be in 1 or 2 episodes. Some people aren't showing up at all. And it really makes you wonder where the show is going to go from now, I swear. Alrighty, well, I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.